Hi, and welcome back to Learning Davinci Resolve. I'm your host, Kerry Garrison. I'm a certified Davinci Resolve trainer, and today we're going to go over the media window, or the media page, however you want to look at it. This is where we import our media. So there's a lot going on here, but we're going to get right to it. In the upper left-hand corner here, we have our different drives and mount points. And if we want to add a location, we can add a specific location like a different drive or our Dropbox folder, desktop, wherever we want to add so that it's a convenient place for us to get to our stuff. I have my desktop and my Dropbox and my external drive where I have everything. You can mark things as favorites and drop them into there. And then down in the bottom, we have our bins. And a bin is like an internal folder. So it's a way of organizing your data. And then there's smart bins. And smart bins can be a collection of things with different attributes. You can have a smart bin of all your timelines of things that are a certain color, or however you flag them. You can create smart bins. So lots of different ways to go about smart bins. So in the smart bins, we can have properties, file name, display name, real name, time codes, in and out points, start frames, clip details, shot and scene. So we could have comments, scene, take, angle, day and night, environment. So all kinds of different ways that you can organize your data and create smart bins to make it easier to move things around. Now, one thing that's not on by default is what's called a power bin. And if we come up to the view menu, and we can show power bins. Now, a power bin is a global bin. The power bins will show up in all of your projects. So the power bin is great for putting in things that you use all the time. Your intros, your outros, your music, titles, things like that that you need access to in every project. You can put in a power bin and see it everywhere. Super cool. So let's go ahead and look at some footage. And I'll just grab some footage here from Golden, Colorado. And we open it up and it creates our thumbnails for us. And we can scrub through. You can see it on the thumbnail itself, or you can see it in the viewer window. If I double click on it, it will load it into the viewer window. There we go. And then I can scrub it in there. I can zoom in, zoom out. I can scroll around in it. And one thing that's kind of cool that I use is creating subclips. So before I get into that, let's just say I want to add this particular clip to my project I'm working on. I can just take that and drag it into my media pool. Now, because my project settings didn't match my footage settings, it's going to ask me if I want to change my frame rate. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. In this case, I'm just going to say to change the settings so that they match the footage that I'm working on. Now, I can just do this. I can select multiple clips. I'll grab 2 clips there and drag them in. But sometimes I have a long clip and I want to kind of pre-edit it a little bit. So I'll go into this clip and I'll just look at some scenes here, like, oh, that's a pretty nice shot. And instead of putting the entire clip in, I only want to put in the pieces that I'm going to use. So, oh, there was a bad move right there, so I'm not going to go past that. And let me check the beginning of it. So I want, after I start moving, and I'm going to mark my in and out. That's just using the I and O key. So now when I drag that in, it says that it's a subclip. So now I can keep going, find a different spot in the footage, find a nice little spot, start my movement, hit my in point, and I'll select an out point right there. And again, I can drag that down into the media pool. And I've kind of done some pre-editing so I don't have to scrub through the whole clip during the edit process. Now, over on the right-hand side, We can see if there's embedded audio, which there isn't. These are drone clips. I can see my metadata. It's H.264. It's at 29.97 frames per second. It's 3840 by 2160 resolution. And my clip details here, starting and end time code, start frame, end frame, the total number of frames, bit depth, audio bit depth. Again, there's no audio in here. Audio channels, the date that it was modified. So quite a bit of information that I have available to me in here. And if I wanted to capture through a recording device, I could do that as well, or the film scanner, which most of us are not going to have. But metadata I may have on, so I can just look at a clip real quickly and see what's going on with it. So that's the kind of the basics of the media tab. It's not that complicated, and again, it's how we organize our information, organize our assets, create bins so that you can keep your project even more organized as you start working, because maybe you want to organize in between ground shots and aerial shots. So I can come in here and say add a bin, and I'll just make this aerial, and then I could create another bin for ground. And then when I'm editing, I know what type of footage I want to get to. And to put files in there, I can either pick ones that are from here, grab them, and drop them onto the folder that I see there. Now if I go to aerial, those are the ones that are in there. Or I can move them directly from the media storage into that, or I can even drag them from here onto that bin in the bins folder. So a number of different ways of creating the file structure that you want, the folder structure that you want, to be able to manage your data properly. So next we're going to go into some project settings before we go to the edit page. But first, a quick little message from our sponsor, Multicopter Warehouse. Multicopter Warehouse is the nation's leading DJI reseller and authorized repair center. Check them out at multicopterwarehouse.com. Once I have my footage in my media pool, I'm going to double check my project settings, make sure they're what I want, my timeline resolution, my frame rate. I'm always going to make sure my playback frame rate matches my timeline frame rate. Just going to make things work a lot better for me. How do I want to deal with my media, my optimized media? If I use it, we'll talk about optimized media later on, and my render cache. So depending on my machine, I'm going to do one or the other. On this particular machine, which is a 5K iMac, I typically don't do optimized media. On my MacBook Pro, I do, because it's not as fast. And on that machine, I'm going to select optimized media resolution at quarter resolution. My optimized media format is ProRes 422 proxy. Now on Windows, you may need to do a DNxR codec or something else that's going to be a little lighter weight that your system can handle well. And my render cache. So if I have render caching turned on, so it renders it while I'm working, I'm going to choose a render cache format that's most appropriate to my footage. Now using mostly Panasonic GH4 and DJI drone footage, I don't need anything greater than 422 LT, because that can handle a bit rate of 135 megabits, and my cameras are only doing 100 megabits. So it's a little bit better than what my cameras are shooting, so I'm not going to lose any data while I'm working. Now I'm not going to touch my working folders or frame interpolation. I don't need to deal with any of that stuff right now. And there really aren't any other options in here that I'm going to work with on a general basis. So really it's just these master settings, making sure that my optimized media and render cache are going to be set properly, and that my frame rate matches my timeline. After that, I'm good to go. I'm going to make sure I go to File and select Save Project, making sure that I'm saving everything. Now, one thing that you should always set up first under your preferences is go to Preferences, go to User, go to Autosave, make sure Live Save is turned on. This is going to save your project every time you make a change. So if there's a crash or something, you're not going to lose all the work that you've done. And once you hit save, make sure you go to File and Save Project, and now it has started that auto-save process. You always got to make sure that one time after you turn on the live save that you hit that save point. At this point, I'm ready to move on and do some editing, but this is it for this video. Take care. We'll catch you next time. This has been Carrie with Learning DaVinci Resolve.